go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to East Central Missouri and the world, and welcome to the James Strong Show podcast, podcast number 205. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making us a part of your day. I appreciate it. This podcast was recorded on the evening of Wednesday, January the 27th, from the James Strong Show studio in western St. Charles County. We've got snow this evening, this afternoon, the first snow of the season really here. So it's finally wintertime at the very end of January. So we have to stay inside. But with the whole COVID-19 thing, as Eugene Vale says, what difference does it make? We had to stay inside anyway. And speaking of Eugene Vale and speaking of Joe Schaper, they're going to be our guests this evening. Welcome to the podcast, both of you.
Hello, how you doing?
Outstanding. I was going to give you an introduction, but I thought it was rather tacky. I was going to say there was Masters and Johnson, there was Marie and Pierre Curie, there was Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Well, maybe not the Rosenbergs, okay?
I hope not. Well, we compare ourselves to Tom and Kathy Ailey and Russ and Jeannie Gurney. But you'd have to be into caving and hydrology to know what was going on there.
Not Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, right?
No, not at all.
Maybe not. Well, you two are the true Renaissance couple, and you've been on countless times, and I appreciate it. And I just wanted to get, from your perspective, this whole COVID-19 thing and how it's affected you. Eugene, you're putting daily, sometimes several times a day, posts on your Facebook page listing the numbers in the various counties in East Central Missouri, the entire state, the country, the deaths, the hospitalizations, etc. And these aren't numbers that you make up. These are numbers that you get from a couple of sources, but Johns Hopkins is one of them, correct?
It depends on which one. But I actually use Johns Hopkins on a check on the government.
Okay.
And for Missouri, it's a little shaky, but the U.S. CDC numbers in Johns Hopkins track very well.
Okay.
And I also use the World Health Organization for the other countries, and then locally I go to the local health departments for the numbers. The closer to the source you can get, the better.
Agreed. And Joe, you're an author, you're a poet, and you sell books for a living. Is one of the many things that you do. And what you do is you have an audience, you have readings, you try to sell the books at the readings, but you can't have an audience right now. So you're probably having a tough time with this, I would expect, from a business standpoint.
Well, basically the two businesses I have are Geocommunication Services, which is basically graphic design and promotion for small business people and LLCs, and that includes events, and it includes people who need the kind of promotion that goes with their businesses. And then Poets Publishing, which is the poetry publishing end. And yes, 2020 was pretty much a total wash. Mm. I've had a few jobs. Pretty much did not sell hardly any books this year, simply because the distribution channels are, it's an in-person thing. It's a sales thing.
Right.
With Geocommunication Services, I have to go meet. These are just normal people. I mean, we're not talking going to an ad agency or anything. We're just talking to somebody that says, "Hey, I need a flyer for this event," mm-hmm. and you have to talk to them and see what it is they want to say. We did some meetings last year outside at parks, but pretty much most of the third places were closed. In the past, I've invited people and basically did business like that on my kitchen table, but I'm not going to have strangers come into my kitchen table.
Sure.
So, you have to have the interaction, and it's really hard to do that over the internet because most of the people that I'm dealing with, the reason that they're coming to me is they aren't professional people looking for computer graphics. It's like, hi, I need a business card and a brochure. Now tell me what you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah, like she said, a lot of that work was for events, and a lot of events were canceled.
Exactly. And sales, yeah, sure, you can sell over the internet, you can make phone calls, but the way to sell many products is you sit down with somebody, you have a conversation, you shake their hand. I guess we're going to do that one of these days. I don't know, and you build a relationship, and it's hard to do over a Zoom call.
Quite frankly, last fall, I'm 64 years old. I'm not, a real young person, but I decided that I was going to take early Social Security and be like semi-retired.
Sure.
Just because having, a little bit of money coming in on a regular basis, when you can't go out and hustle. And believe me, I go out there and hustle when I can. But, in order to, pay your bills, you have to be able to do that. And you're a salesperson, you understand this, but you also work for a company. When you're doing this as, your own company, you don't have anybody saying, oh, well, they're not giving you a commission. You're earning your own commission. So, that's been pretty rough last year, and I honestly think, I make money, believe me, I make money, but I don't think I'm going to go over the Social Security, what you can earn net profits at this point in my life. I'm not out to build a business. I'm out to make some money and pay my bills.
Exactly.
So, but it was kind of hard making that decision because I really, really wanted to wait until I was full retirement age. But it just got to the point that it was like, the worry and the hassle and the anxiety just wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah,
in that case, we're in a better shape than a lot of people are because we're both able to take Social Security, and I have a pension. But I really worry about those people who just, they're out of work, which also means they got no health care, which also means that if they come down with COVID, which a lot of people have, we've lost 2 friends that we know of to the disease, actually 4. And there's a bunch of folks we don't know the cause of death. So it's the people that are not in a good financial situation are tough. It's one of the problems with having health care associated with employment.
You need to be employed.
Yeah, and a lot of people are out of work because of, the restaurants are down, the sports venues are down, even visiting the stores are down. If you're delivering pizza or you're carrying stuff out to curbside, I guess those jobs are up, but everything else is pretty rough.
Yeah, and the manufacturing industry where I work in, that's booming. Construction is booming because nobody's going on vacation. They're all building additions onto their houses. So there are businesses that are doing better than normal. Our business is doing better than normal. We sell machinery and supplies and that to the wet wipe industry, the surgical mask industry, the surgical gown industry. So we're busier than we've been in a while. So
we know a lot of people in construction that are having trouble finding folks to work for. I'd work for them only, hey, I'm 67 this year. Yeah. It's not a good time to take up being a stonemason.
Probably not. Probably. You're not going to go to work to be a hod carrier, probably. Yeah, I get that. There's just, the economy is interesting because there are a lot of people that are hurting, but there are a lot of people who are doing just fine. And I guess that's the old adage. That's the difference between a depression and a recession. The recession is when your neighbor's out of work. The depression is when you're out of work. But this whole pandemic, this whole mess, how do I want to put this? We're a year into it, and we're still stumbling about. I use that as a collective we, and I guess maybe I'll use those in charge of trying to make it work. But we're a year into this, and we're still stumbling around, trying to distribute vaccine. Who's going to get it? How do you get it? What are the rules that you follow? There's still the debate: do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? I would hope that we would have gotten past that, but for whatever reason, we still haven't. Why do you think that is?
Well, one thing in terms of the economy that I kind of think was interesting, when this all started, like last April, May, and they were really worried about what they were going to do by people like people like me, who are basically what they call a gig worker, a contract worker.
Right.
And the government said, oh, well, if you're a small business or you're one of these people, we've got all of this relief that we can get you, and you just got to fill out this paperwork and go to the Small Business Administration. And I'm sure you heard that a lot of the people who were getting this were actually by most people's assessment, they were not small businesses. They were, oh, well, we only employ 50,000 people, therefore we're a small business.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I actually looked into this, and talked to some other folks who were like hairdressers. One of my friends has a little beauty shop, and they were closed down for a while. And people like that who had either they had employees or they had people who were depending on chair rental in the case of a styling salon, they had the paperwork put together from their business and their taxes that they could actually apply for these things.
Mm-hmm.
If you were really a gig worker, if you were really the person, I'm going to I've got this job for so-and-so this week, and next week I'm going to do that, and then third week I'm not certain what's going to come down the pike. I just, I don't have the paperwork to even make, an application for anything like that. And most of the folks that I know said, well, if you don't have employees, it's just not going to happen. But if you're out there working to feed yourself, you still got to eat.
Sure,
and
exactly.
That's one thing they have never figured out. The fellow who ran for state representative here and lost, he is a musician, and that was basically his point in going political. He said, his wife works, so they were not on the street or anything, but it's like, I don't know. I go out and negotiate. No, I'm going to play in this bar this, Saturday night or whatever. And so that really, even though the press made a big deal out of it, that really never worked, and it has not worked for anybody I know who's self-employed.
Well, that's the whole thing about this, and I've heard statements, and I'll use restaurants as an example, because virtually everybody eats out in a restaurant occasionally. Okay, we all do, and they were saying, I heard some number that anywhere from 30 to 60% of the restaurants in many areas are going to close permanently. 60% in some areas, especially in California, where they're really having trouble. And the statement was made, well, yeah, but when this whole mess is done, they'll just reopen, or new restaurants will pop up. Well, that's fine, but somebody has taken their life savings, their life work, and had it ruined. Okay, so sure, sometime after this is all over, somebody else will open up a new restaurant, but that person's livelihood is just ruined.
If you own the property outright and you can just close the door and hunker down, it's good. But if you've got rent payments and you've got no income, which most restaurants are renting their space.
That's true.
And so, they can't make those payments and they're out. But I'll come back to what you said earlier in a minute, but I did want to say one thing. You may recall that, and this kind of prepared us for COVID, Joe and I have been working with the Fish and Wildlife Service on the bat pandemic known as white nose syndrome.
Okay.